The retail reckoning comes for Bed Bath & Beyond, a company filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy over the weekend and plans to liquidate all inventory. What led to the filing and what lies ahead? Gerald Storch, Storch Advisors CEO, former Toys R Us CEO, former Hudson's Bay CEO, and Laura Coordes, Arizona State College of Law Associate Dean, join us now. Great to see you both. Jerry, we'll start with you. And I have to quote Maya Angelou, because why not? She said, "You can't really know where you're going until you know where you have been." So what was Bed & Bath's fatal error, and what does it mean in this retail environment?
Well, they made so many mistakes over the last 5 years. It's hard to pick just one. Essentially, it was very poor execution of the wrong strategy. So they weren't winning on any front. Their prior CEO thought that they'd turn it into kind of a private label shop, almost a second cousin or sister to Target's home department. And really, the positioning they should have had was as the authority for home goods, where you could get everything you wanted, including the best brands. And sure, you could have private label if you wanted, but basically what you needed to be is the authority where you could get whatever you want to ask, go in there, get service, come in with a question, get it answered. And they had none of that. And they went heavily into private label. They tried to do it way too fast. They messed it all up. The stores were a mess. They had stickers all over the windows. For goodness knows what, a huge violation of common visual merchandising rules. It looked like the whole place was going out of business, when in fact what they're trying to do is bring it into the current era. It was a total travesty.
Jerry, what about the value, though, that's still left? Lots of focus on Bye Bye Baby and what that could potentially mean here for the company. What does that value, do you think, realistically look like at this point?
Well, it's deteriorated significantly. So the question is the value still there? There's clearly very little value in the core Bed Bath & Beyond chain. Someone will buy the intellectual property and use it for online retailing or a store within a store at Macy's or something like that. But Bed Bath & Beyond, as we know it, is dead. The real question is Bye Bye Baby. There's no doubt that a year ago they still had value because they're the only baby chain left in the world after Babies R Us went bankrupt along with Toys R Us. So it was the dominant and only dedicated babies chain in the world. They were not doing that great a job, but it was clearly the crown jewel. But keep in mind, babies only take, last I saw, 9 months to cook. And so they've been performing so poorly for over a year now that they've probably lost a big part of that franchise as well in terms of the customers who have moved on to Target or Walmart or Amazon. So it'll be very difficult to restart that and bring it back to the strength it had a few years ago. So it's not clear, like it was maybe a year ago, that someone want to buy that and operate that as a standalone business. It's possible. That piece is possible. Mm-hmm. But I still think that would be a long haul for anyone at this juncture.
Certainly there's some value in the name and social media feeds and whatnot. Laura, to Jerry's point, this was years in the making. How long and how does this procedure now, the filing, take place?
Yeah, so this has absolutely been a long time coming, but now that Bed Bath & Beyond is in bankruptcy, it's actually probably going to move pretty quickly to liquidate, to close its stores, or possibly, as Jerry said, maybe find a buyer for some of its brands. It was able to secure funding to operate in bankruptcy, and it's going to probably put into effect a liquidation plan. It seems like it's planning right now to have all of its stores closed by June 30th. Although, of course, if they're able to find a buyer for some or all of its brands, it might not have to close all of those stores. But now that it's in bankruptcy, it's going to be moving, I think, pretty quickly.
Laura, what does it mean for shareholders? We talk about Bed Bath & Beyond as a meme play. It seems like they're pretty much out of luck, right?
Yeah, so in bankruptcy, generally speaking, those shareholders are at the end of the line in terms of priority. And so typically what happens if something like this is going to happen, it's the creditors, the banks, the lenders that are going to get potentially new ownership in any sort of reorganized company. And those shareholders are typically wiped out. So not good news for the shareholders.
Indeed. All right, Jerry, are there any winners in this story, whether it be a Walmart or a Target or even those in the e-commerce space?
Honestly, they took the share a long time ago. They've been declining at 20, 30% year over year in sales for 2 years now. So there isn't that much business left to be had that they haven't already taken, but their business will go to places that have good registries for wedding registries. It will go places that have strong baby departments and baby registries. So it's going to go to the guys who are already big. It's going to go to Target. It's going to go to Walmart. It's going to go to Amazon. And whatever's left, if there is anything, will just get split up. I don't think anyone's even going to notice. That's the sad truth at this stage. It's gone so far south, and it's gone so far south so fast. There isn't that much left in terms of spoil to divide up. And I will say, once you get your hands on this company, once it becomes part of so-called, restructuring experts running it, which is where you are now, between the fees for the restructuring experts, the fees for the bankers, the fees for the lawyers, while the consumer experience is worse than ever, I don't think there's much of a chance that it's going to be anything except a bunch of vultures dividing up whatever's left, giving it to the highest tiered creditors, as Laura said, and then going out of business.
Laura, given the environment right now, consumers obviously pulling back on spending, what do you think this tells us just about potential future bankruptcies, not only within the sector, but really just across the landscape?
Yeah, so I think there's, it's kind of a moment of reckoning in some ways, although in many ways there's been this moment of reckoning for several years now. We've seen so many retailers really since the pandemic filing for bankruptcy for various reasons. And we've had, even just this year, we've had numerous bankruptcies from other retailers. David's Bridal is back in bankruptcy for a second time. We've got Party City, Serta Simmons. And so this is really, I think kind of a moment in retail that it's been having for several years. Unfortunately, what bankruptcy cannot do is sort of change the underlying operations of a company or make that company relevant to shoppers or repair damaged relationships with vendors. And ultimately, a lot of that's going to be up to management. So bankruptcy will give a company breathing space so that management can rethink a company's operational strategy. But at the end of the day, the long-term success or failure of these retailers is going to depend on management and going to depend on the overall retail and economic and consumer climate and other factors that bankruptcy isn't really going to address.
And Jerry, finally, do you expect that there are others that may follow in the Chapter 11 path? And if you could wager a guess, what happens to the minimum 30 million square feet that Bed Bath & Beyond vacancies now combined with maybe Party City and others? What becomes of all that massive retail space?
So firstly, I do think there'll be more bankruptcies. In fact, retailing it's going to be a very tough year. I think Christmas is going to be really hard this year. We have now clocked as of the March sales report. It's now 7 straight months where year over year retail sales have declined versus the prior year on an inflation adjusted basis. So we're going backwards in the retailing of things right now, and there's no sign that's going to change. This appears to be decelerating at a rapid rate, and along with that, anyone who has a weak business model is going to suffer. So definitely there'll be more bankruptcies. There is a glut of retail real estate out there already. The best sites obviously get taken very rapidly. And some of the Bed Bath & Beyond sites are very good. And so those will be used by the retailers who are thriving and value-based retailers. There's plenty of people doing well, value-based retailers, grocers, Walmart, Target, etc. There's plenty of good performing retailers right now. So they'll take the best sites. The worst performing sites, there's already a lot of derelict sites in the worst parts of the worst towns. And I think they're going to have to go to other uses, whether that's, medical is a big one these days, for imaging centers or emergency center, whatever like that, and some of it will just be demolished, frankly, to make way for housing, which has a big need, and for industrial or commercial use. So it's that we're overbuilt. We know that we have too much space. The good space will it'll always be great. The bad space is what's going to have to go away.
More Harvard healthcare is coming to your neighborhood soon. Jerry Storch and Laura Coordes, thank you both. Great conversation. Appreciate that.